Unless specifically indicated otherwise, the content expressed are my views only and not necessarily those of Life Pro Asset Management, LLC. The content presented is in no way an investment advice, solicitation, or an offer to sell securities or investment advisory services. The material is provided for general information and educational purposes based upon publicly available information from sources believed to be reliable. I cannot assure the accuracy or completeness of these materials. As such, the information in these materials may change at any time without notice. Reference to these discussions about IULs and annuities or fixed insurance products. Investments on fixed insurance products are different from investments in the stock market. Any guarantees provided by a fixed insurance product cannot be assumed to be guaranteed for any other investment.
Welcome to the Rock My Finances show on K4HD Radio and Talk4 TV, where we put the fun in finance. Join Powerhouse Jennifer Jose, CDFA, CMC, and Private Wealth Advisor, as she collaborates with you to create clarity, control, and confidence with your money, your way. It's not about the zeros, so what is it all about? Let's find out. Now here's your host and weekly friend, Jennifer Jose.
Hey there, so glad you're here today. We have got a jam-packed show for you all. This is going to be so great. So as a woman and as a money coach, certified money coach that I am, I have a lot of women speak up to me and ask me questions, when I'm out and about or at a networking event or wherever I'm at. And they always say, I ask, what was their biggest frustration? And they say they didn't use their voice. They didn't listen to their gut. They didn't step up when they wished they would have. So today we are going to learn a lot about women stepping up and using their voice and the reasons why we might want to use our voice, the reasons why we don't use our voice, and how we can change that to up-level our lives, because it's all about how we can be our best selves and our better selves and accomplishing our goals, dreams, and desires in this lifetime, right? So I love the law of attraction. I want everyone to be rocking your finances. And so we want to be able to use our skills in order to have the lifestyle you desire. So being able to use our voice and being able to feel heard is very important. And as women, we use a lot of words. And so sometimes when we're working with men or around someone who doesn't use as many words as we do, we kind of overtalk them, right? So we're going to learn how we can actually use our voice to our advantage. I do know that I've had women come to me being a certified divorce financial analyst and say that I never spoke up in my marriage. And now the marriage is ending and they definitely want to get what they want out of the divorce, or at least what they feel is fair, but they've never used their voice before. So that is also an area that we want to make sure that, first of all, we have to know what we want, and it could change, of course, right? But what do we think is next best step for us? And then be able to voice that without being so-called the big B word, right? Without coming from anger at all times, because that's just easier for people is to express in anger because that's an acceptable emotion, but actually come from our heart and come from our authentic self and speak for what we actually want to have happen. Or maybe even like assertiveness training that I learned years ago. If something did not happen the way you wanted it to, then we speak what happened, how you felt about it, and what you want done next time. Very simple, assertive training. So we want to be able to do that with a heart and feeling good about ourselves as well. So I have got the guest for you all. I'm so excited. So I have known Elizabeth for off and on through networking for many years now. And we've seen each other, spoke on the same stages and seen each other around helping women advocates that we both do as well, empowering women. And I love the way she runs her business. I love the way she runs wherever she's at. If she's speaking, she holds the room really well. She helps women out. She champions them. She just wants the best for all of us. And she knows her stuff. So I'm so excited today to invite on Miss Elizabeth Buckman. She's actually the go-to person when you want advanced level training for speaking, presentation skills, maybe sales, and or leadership. She's been doing this for a long time, and she helps high-level people, women like us, attract our high-level clients and bring that message that they might need to maybe gain allies that they want, or maybe the recognition that they need at work, possibly, or even like entrepreneurs might even need funding. How do you have your voice heard when you actually are asking for money for your business or something? So and then just even in relationships. I mean, for me, like it's relationships, my staff, my team, family, friends, all that. So we're going to cover it all today. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Miss Elizabeth Buckman to the stage.
Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer. I'm so happy to be here. Yes. Delighted to be your guest.
I'm so glad you're here. We're going to have fun, Elizabeth. We're going to have fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, you bet.
So the first question I ask everyone, and everyone, of course, has a different answer, which is wonderful for our listeners. What is the thing or situation that you spent money on in the last week that brought you joy?
Well, it always brings me joy to get a really good coffee. I drink more coffee than I should. I know. But also professionally, I have invested in some further training for a new project that I'm working on. And I know it's going to plug a gap in my knowledge. It's going to be where I know I need a little extra tweaking. I've almost got it, but I need an extra tweaking. So that's an investment in myself to just solve this little problem.
I love that. I love that. So coffee, I don't drink caffeine anymore, but every once in a while I'm out on a special trip or something and somebody will want to go to Starbucks or, whatever the coffee places are. And I used to do the decaf caramel macchiatos with the whipped cream and the caramel on the whipped cream. So, oh my God, do you remember Ally McBeal way back when, where she just like totally loved that coffee? So I can feel you right now. And that's what this show is about. Rock My Finances. We do talk about money. We talk about helping women empower and skill up, like what you're going to be able to help us with today. And we talk about the F word, which is how we feel about it, because I want everybody to take it to the next level. And we can't do that if we all stay up in our brain the whole time. Like we just shoulda, woulda, coulda ourselves all day long. So if we bring it down to the heart and go, oh, doesn't that memory of that coffee is so great for me. Like it was so good. Like I want to go get whipped cream and caramel sauce right now. Like that's great.
Right.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that with us. Okay. So you've been doing this for a long time. So why, first of all, why don't you tell me in your words something a little bit about you?
Well, first of all, I was an international opera director for over 30 years. Actually, I like to think I've been dedicated to the art of great communication since I first walked on stage at the age of 5. And afterwards, I heard my mom say that I was the best goddamn bunny rabbit ever to grace the stage of the Hillside School. I sort of added that emphasis there, but I
love that.
I thought, okay, I'm going to be a famous actress on Broadway. And then I realized I was actually a better director than I was an actor. I was a character actor in an ingenue body, basically. But I'm a good director. I'm an oldest child. So when I changed my college major to directing instead of acting, my younger sisters said, well, duh, you boss everyone around anyway. Might as well give up and get paid for it. So I went from acting to directing opera singers to running an opera company. And now what I do is leverage all that knowledge, the business knowledge and the presentation knowledge, to help women, especially women within organizations, to show up as leaders. And
I love that.
Ultimately, it's what happens is so many women sit back and wait to be recognized, or you do just a good basic job. And why should I brag? There's a whole tightrope you have to walk as a woman between being considered bossy or being respected. And it is a skill. It's a learnable skill, but it's definitely a skill. And so what I do is help help you show up through figuring out what the people who need to hear you, what do they need to know? What do they need to know about you? And then how do you tell them in a way that they can hear it? Basically, it's a shift the way you're perceived by shifting the way you communicate.
I love that. Shift the way you perceived by shifting the way you communicate, which I love skilling up. And I think I took communication way back when. And I feel like I always need a refresher. Like right now I get triggered with my son. And so now him and I need to do like a communication course together, because we just both push each other's buttons, right? Like it drives me crazy. I have pretty good communication with other people and I help my clients communicate to all of their people, but I still get, triggered with my son. So I love that. I love that helping that. So let me go back. I was at a firm prior to being here, and we had 30 male advisors and 20 women staff, and like 2 female advisors, 3 at the most. And they were always coming and going, and like just 2 of us ended up staying. And so what I saw was women going above and beyond, like completely going above and beyond what their job description was. Never told anybody about it. So no one ever really knew like what they were doing. And then they would get angry and resentful if they weren't getting praised, or basically, let's face it, money. If they weren't getting the raise, if they weren't getting the next promotion, if they weren't really seen about what they were doing. And it was always strange to me. Like, why aren't you telling somebody what you're doing? Like, they don't know what you're doing if they don't know. And then the people without the self-esteem just stay there and just get resentful. The people with self-esteem, now I might not be using the right term, but they'll leave and they'll go to the next company. If they know their worth, and they're still not using their voice, but if they know their worth, they're going to go someplace else that they can share and speak up.
And then the problem is you go to the new company, but if you haven't learned how to be visible and valued, then you're going to have the same problem at the next company.
Totally agree. And in relationships and everything. I mean, what you teach for organizations and business, but we can carry that on to our relationships and our home life with our family and friends as well. That's great.
Absolutely.
So why is it so important, or why are you passionate about women being heard?
Well, because I made all those mistakes. So as an opera director, I was one of the early women. I was one of the early women when it was maybe 10% women and 90% men directing opera in America. And I kept waiting to be recognized for the good work I was doing. And then I was also, and I would see the plum assignments go to the men. You think about it in Hollywood. If you think about the Oscars, look back over the history of Oscars, it's only been in the last couple of years that they're actually acknowledging that there are female directors. Up until a few years ago, it was the same 10 men over and over again. And, not to mention people of color. That's a whole other.
Exactly. It's a whole other ball of wax.
A whole other conversation. I wanted to run an opera company. I knew early on that I would be a good artistic director, executive director. And I knew what I needed. I knew where I needed support, etc. So I would apply. And I was pretty well known in the opera business, and I would apply every time that those openings come up 3 or 4 times a year. And I would apply, and every time I would be on the short list. They'd fly me in for an interview, and then I would see the job go to a man, often someone who wasn't as qualified. Right. Yep. And one of the reasons
were you not bragging in the appointment or in the interview, or?
It was 2 things. First of all, when you're worried about money, and if you're on the board of an opera company, of any nonprofit, if you're board of a nonprofit, you are always worried about money. So when you're worried about money, society has taught us it's better to trust a man than to trust a woman. I was aware of that. What I didn't realize until much later, until I started doing the work that I do now, is that I was marketing myself to the wrong people. And this is what I see women do all the time, especially in the job market. So in an organization, if you're trying to get a raise or a promotion or a better job, we are taught as children, socialized basically. This is the unconscious messages from society. Good girls don't brag. I don't know if your mother told you that. Mine did.
Stay
good girls
humble.
don't brag. Stay humble, right? And that recognition by your peers should be enough. What I didn't understand at that point was that it's not my peers who were doing the hiring. It was the boards of trustees. So for each company, I should have been cultivating a relationship with the board because they're the ones making the decision. And so being well known horizontally is not enough. You have to be visible virtually and also recognized for what you're really good at. And I didn't know how to tell that story either. And that is also a huge part of what I teach now is how do you talk about yourself without bragging, but talking about what you're good at. And indeed, especially in talking in the job market now, in the workplace, if what you are really good at is being the glue that keeps the team together, of enabling the right people to get together so that the department runs very well. This describes most of the people who show up, most of the clients who call me up have been referred to me and they say, look, I'm a director of operations, or I'm a program manager. I'm the person that makes it all happen. And because my department runs just fine, thank you very much, nobody notices all the work that goes into that.
Yes.
And
that's what happens.
And that's what happens. So part of what I have developed is the value of things not going wrong. How do you talk about the value of things not going wrong? Now, I'm not going to talk about this, how this relates to relationships. There are other people who are better at it. That's better at that. But where I'm really good is within an organization. And how do you talk about the value of things running smoothly? And basically what you have to do it in contrast to where things are falling apart. And I have a whole program about, it's called Visible and Valued Leadership Certification for Executive Women. How do you talk about what you're good at and point out the problems that you avoided, the problems that you headed off early on because you saw it coming and recognized it? And there's I've got like 10 different ways of doing that.
That's awesome. And I believe in law of attraction as well. And so I always have my clients stay in joy and happiness as much as possible. And if you're spending time looking at how you're doing well and how you've headed off mistakes, that's only going to be better for them as well. And using this in relationship, I mean, I'm thinking, because I always think of everything in relationship, because we're all in relationship.
Right.
And so and I was taught way back when through all my years of therapy and coaching and everything, that you always give affirmations to your whoever you're in relationship with, your team, your staff, your spouse, your kids, whatever, what they're doing good, give them something great about what they're doing good. And then I love that you said versus the contrast. So I haven't done that in relationships. So I don't know if works, but I can hear myself say, like, maybe I'll use my beautiful son as an example. I love it when you call me in the morning and you're really happy and it's very exciting for the day and it makes me really happy, versus when you call me and you're sad, it makes me have a sad day. I don't know if I would actually do that, but that's the yin and the yang, right? So I love that. I love that you're saying that, because as women, and again, I'm generalizing, we just get on that hamster wheel and go. And when we see something happening, we just do it. We fix it. We have a solution. We don't even know that we're doing that until we actually have to sit down and write SOPs or standard operating positions, or someone else is coming in to do our job for a month when we're going on vacation. Like, we don't even know what we do until we actually look at what we do. And so I love that you help them see that, well, if I didn't do that, what would that? Oh my gosh, our computers wouldn't work if I didn't do what I was doing. Like, nobody would be able to get into the front door if I didn't make sure the key, like, there's so many little things that we do.
Well, the other thing that I think of a lot, and so I'm a language person, I'm a word person, and I'm really good with words, and I speak 5 languages. So I've been communicating internationally for my whole working career. And I've decided that there's also men's language and women's language.
Yes.
And the problem is when you're speaking one language to someone who speaks another, and you expect to be understood. So a lot of it comes down to what I call single-focused people and multi-focused people. So you've got the people who, and Western business is built on the single-focused principle, where you do
Western
one thing at a time.
Period is built on one single focus. Well,
because for so long it was built on what made sense for men. The thing is that single-focused and multi-focused, single focus is not always men, and it's a lot of men. It tends to be more men than women, but I know plenty of women who get very single-focused. I get very single-focused if I'm working on a project. The multi-focused people are the ones who can think of lots of things at the same time, and that's really useful, because the single-focused people, that's how things get done. You get things finished. But it's the multi-focused person on the team who will notice, hey, has anybody actually asked the client if they want this?
Yeah.
Or did you realize that our competitors are already marketing this? So they're like a year ahead of us in the process. Do we really want to invent the same thing that is already on the market? The single focused people, it's very easy for them to get excited by a cool idea and let's go do this really cool thing without thinking about the complications. So you really need both together. You need the single focused and the multi-focused to work together, but you also need to be aware that it's 2 different languages.
Yes.
And one of the ways that women sabotage themselves a lot is women can talk about lots of things all at once and keep lots of ideas in their head. Let's say the multi-focused people.
Yes.
And then you go to a single focused person who is focused on something else. Thank you very much. And say, I'd like to talk to you about applying for that new position that's opened, or that's going to come open in a couple of months. He may not hear it because he's single focused.
Right.
And I would add to that, there's another piece of that. And I can give you a demonstration. There's another piece of this, which is multi-focused people, particularly women, tend to take things personally. It's basically, you're focused on relationships. So it's an emotional thing. If the single focused person doesn't listen, you think it's because he hates you. And whereas the single focus probably just didn't hear it because that's not the way the brain works. It's not anybody's fault. Partly it's the way our brains work, and partly it's the way we are socialized as children. Boys are taught, if you fall down, just get up, brush yourself up and keep on going. Girls are taught, oh, be careful. Did you get dirty? Did you hurt yourself? It starts out very early. So, for instance, my client Maria was a senior director, and she saw a promotion that was coming. A vice president was leaving. She wanted the job. She wrote a great proposal of all the things that she could do if she got this vice president position, and sent it off to her her manager, Jason. But another thing that women do is women are taught to not to ask. It's rude to ask directly. Women drop hints. This is another thing we're taught as children. And so instead of saying, I would like that vice president position, I'd like you to promote me for this as vice president, here's what I could do with it, she sent it off in an email with the subject, here's something that will interest you. And Jason looked at that and said, oh, it's some article that she saw. Okay, great. And I'll get back to it at the end of the day. And of course, 500 emails later, he'd completely forgotten. Maria stewed about it for a week. She didn't hear anything. And so finally she spoke to him and said, what did you think of my proposal? And he said, what proposal?
What proposal? Yeah, I didn't even see it. Yeah.
And she was hurt. Of course, she didn't say that. She said, oh, I'll just, I'll send it again, when you have time. And then she went off and called her friends and said, he hates me. He ignored my proposal. Right. And she called her female friends who also buy into this, what we are taught as children.
Yep.
It's a relationship. It's not, it's not just business. It's a relationship. And they said, that's true. He hates you. You're not valued in this company. You should quit.
Yep.
Fortunately, one of them said, talk to Elizabeth first. So I talked to her and I said, did you ever actually ask? And well, no, she hadn't actually asked. So we figured out a way that she could ask. She set up a meeting. She got his attention. She scheduled it so that you would get a particular time where he would be single focused on her. They went through the proposal. He said, this is wonderful. I love it. I'll pass it on. And sure enough, she got the promotion. She liked the company. She just was afraid she was being ignored.
That's awesome.
So that was a way, there was like 3 different typical bits of gender miscommunication that almost made her quit her job.
Yep. I love that, gender miscommunication. I love these words that you're using.
Well, I learned it from Kimmy Avery, who taught me this many years ago. And it's a huge piece of what I use in my work, helping women recognize the difference.
And I think that's really important when I talk with a lot of my clients, because most of my coaching clients are women, and I always have them reframe things so that they can, and they always say, why is it always me? Why can't they step up? Why can't they do something different? And I keep just trying to explain to them is because you're asking them to do something. You're asking an apple to be an orange. Like they can't do that. Yep. You have to teach them and show them what you need. And the same with you. But being multi-focused, we can go to single-focused. Single-focused would have to retrain and learn a whole new thing to be multi-focused, which we don't want them to be multi-focused. We just want to be able to communicate between the two.
It's as if we'll just say men and women for simplicity's sake, it's as if men speak Spanish and women speak Italian.
Yeah, men are from Mars.
It's just like Mars and Venus, right? But, Spanish and Italian are very close. And so if you're Italian and you're speaking to a Spaniard in Italian, the Spaniard might get the gist of what you're trying to say, but they won't know exactly what it is. But as an Italian, you would know that I have to actually say it in Spanish and vice versa. Once people are aware that this is an issue, then you can adjust. But you have to be aware of it. And the thing is that most people aren't aware that this is a thing. And so they
until they get all resentful and angry, and then you start working on that symptom and not the underlying reason of the symptom.
Correct.
And so then they all stay up here. Well, he did, she did, and they did whatever, instead of going down underneath here. Well, you weren't really hearing each other back here. I love that. I love that. So explain to me, we're going to jump to a commercial here in a minute or two, and then we'll come back because I know you have something very special to share right at the end of the show that's really going to help a lot of people out there. So stay tuned for the end of the show for sure. We're going to go to a commercial here in a minute. And then I'd like you to come back and give me like a little bit of an example that we can shift our languaging to be heard by more people.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound good?
Gladly.
Awesome. Okay, Juan, go ahead and roll the commercial, and then we're going to come back and get more information from Miss Elizabeth Buckman. Stay tuned.
Wait, the show isn't over yet. There's more fun and finances ahead. Jennifer will be right back as we have a special bonus offer for you right here on Rock My Finances, broadcasting live on K4HD Radio and Talk 4 TV.
Hey y'all, it's Jennifer Jost. Are you ready to transform your relationship with money? Rock My Finances Club is your weekly mastermind for wealth empowerment. Join me live for your personal weekly group video sessions and access your personal portal with the video library at any time, including your success system and way more bonuses. Go to rockmf.com for your financial empowerment. Make yourself a priority today. Schedule a chat with me at rockmf.com and achieve your feminine financial freedom finally. Oh, and don't forget to ask me how to save 50%. See you at our weekly mastermind.
Okay, Rock My Finances on K4HD and Talk 4 TV is back. Once again, let's put the fun in finance with your host and weekly friend, Jennifer Jost.
Okay, Miss Elizabeth, give me an example of how I can put into practice now to actually be heard, I guess, right?
Yeah. Well, I do executive coaching through the lens of presentation skills. It's all about how do you show up. So you need to know, are you being single focused or multi-focused? And who are you working with? Who needs to hear you? And who are you trying to reach? And if they are single focused, which quite often they are, because that's what Western business recognizes and promotes, then you need to be clear about what you're saying. This is why they always say use bullet points within, and be clear and concise. The other piece of that is make an appointment to talk to the single focus person so that you get their whole focus. And then when you get their whole focus, that's great. What women often do is they will make the appointment at noon and then say, okay, we can talk today at 5. And then they keep talking. So multi-focused people always want to know the context. Single-focused people don't care. They just need to know, what are you supposed to do? And so if you're basically adjust what you want to say what you want to say, but say it in a language they can understand.
Okay, so you said a couple very important things that I'm going to take away for sure is this is why so many people have so many meetings, because it's easier to be single focused when you have a scheduled time block on your calendar to be single focused. So I love that. That makes more sense to me now. And when you have both men and women, or it doesn't even matter, anyone, when they're multitasking, when you're supposed to be single focused, like if it's 2 women, or like my daughter and I are in business together, we have an appointment once a week, and she's still not single focused on what I'm doing, and I'm not either. We're doing other things while we're supposed to be talking to each other. So I need to make it clear that I need your undivided attention during this 10, 15, 20-minute phone call, whatever, so that we can get the things done. I love that. And then you said they keep talking. So this is what I help my clients do around the emotional part of things is no is a complete answer. You don't need to explain why. And because we always feel like, we shoulda, woulda, coulda, and get everybody's approval on everything that we want to do. So we talk too much, basically. So I'm hearing with you, I do the same thing, and I talk too much to my daughter. Like she's like cuts off. So she's probably more single focused than I am. And she's like, okay, I got it. Just say what you need. Like she's like, next, what's next? I used to be like that. I was very single focused in order to be in the world of finance, in order to get things done and to learn. And I learned that way. Like, it is a learned behavior. Then I hired a coach, and now I'm, spent 4 years with that being, it's okay to be myself and to actually bring other things into it. Because now when I'm meeting with the client and I have my staff and they ask me one question, I'm not going to go to my client for that one question, because the answer to that one question is going to be A, B, or C, which is going to lead to another question, A, B, or C. So I can see it three, like chess, right? I can see it 3 moves ahead. Mm-hmm. And what if any of these moves, I want to have all of the answers to that now, so that when I go to them and say, do you want A, B, or C? And they say B, and I'm like, okay, great. B, we need this and this and this. And then if they say this, okay, great. Then we need this, this, and this. Like, I don't want to have to keep going back and forth. And so I love that I'm multi-focusing, and I love that I can see the solution way down the road. However, my staff, they're like, just answer A, B, or C. Like, that's all I want to know now. And I'm like, yeah, that's not the way we work, right? That's not the way I work. So I love that you're saying, don't use extra words. Be clear and concise about what you want.
Right.
And be focused when you plan that appointment.
And it's okay to ask for what you want.
Oh, yeah.
So here's the other piece. And this is particularly in the workplace, is recognize what you are good at, not just your title, but what are your skills? And then tell stories about it within the, in a meeting. And if you think about it, a new movie comes out and you see, you're not interested, but then you see an ad and you see another ad and then you see another ad and you think, well, maybe I'll go to that movie. It's because you've had 30 seconds to a minute over and over and over and over again that makes you change the way you perceive the thought of that movie. It's the same thing when you're talking about what you're good at. What are your achievements? Here's another thing. Multi-focused people, men and women, are taught, don't brag. I've already did that, so it's no big deal. I achieved that. It's no big deal. You forget it. You just think about the things you did wrong. Well, that's what society teaches us, and it gets us in trouble. What you can do is keep track of your successes. Keep track of your wins at least once a week, and do it with a friend, because it's really hard. That's the old saying is, you can't see the label when you're inside the bottle. It's really hard to recognize your own successes, because society has taught us not to value what we succeeded at, just focus on what hasn't been finished yet. I do that. And so I meet with my team and make sure that we talk about the successes and how we're doing things. In the Visible and Valued Leadership Certification Program, we have cohorts. And you get together with your cohorts to say, at least once a month, to say, of these successes, of these achievements, here's one I can talk about. And then you create a little story so that the next time you're in a meeting, you can say, hey, you know that client who was so unhappy? Well, last week I met with them. I figured out what was missing. I put them in touch with the support staff, and now they love our software. They don't know how they ever lived without it.
Yeah, that's great. I love how you're saying that. So I have my clients at the beginning of every coaching call, we celebrate. We have a celebration, no matter what, money or not money, doesn't matter. But we do not celebrate. And like you said, we do not keep track of our wins. In the beginning of my coaching program, I have everyone write down all of their skills and attributes and anything that they ever did amazing in their life, because we forget that. And then I have them look at it every day for a month, because we forget how badass we actually really are. Yeah. And you're right. We are taught not to be our egomaniac selves and brag and all that. So then we just absolutely forget it. And then we don't share it. And it's not really about bragging. But like you just said, I spoke 5 languages. That's huge. I would want to know that about you. It's like we need to know these things about each other. So I love that you said that. And then make a story around it so that it doesn't feel like bragging in order to share it and somebody else can hear it. Now, let me ask you this. Multi-focused and single-focused people, do we all hear stories the same? I hear stories are very important.
We do, more or less. I mean, even if you're working, say, with engineers or scientists who say just the facts. If you are human, you grew up on stories. We learn about the world from the stories our parents tell us or what we see on TV, all of that. So human beings remember stories more than they remember facts. If you are communicating facts, then you can use a metaphor. For instance, I did this with a bunch of doctors once where trying to explain a concept. And then we said, well, it's like a lake in the mountains, but you can think of it as da 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 da. Here's its official name. So you say the real name so that you show you do know what you're talking about, and then you say you can think of it as, or you can tell your clients as.
Yeah, I love that. I love those. I use that a lot. I use retirement as getting on the other side of the bridge. Like, do you want guardrails? Do you want pads? Do you want to go on a moped? Do you want to go in a minivan, or do you want to go into a Ferrari? Like, how fast do you want to get to retirement? That's great. I love that. Use a metaphor.
So stories and metaphors work together. That's why I told you the metaphor of either Italian or Spanish makes it easier to see what you're talking about. And then that's why I told you the story of Maria and Jason and how that worked. That's probably what people will remember, as opposed to giving you all the technical details of how to shape a story. And, I've been doing theater since I was 5 years old. So I've grown up working with stories and how do you communicate stories. I've been doing that my entire life. And now how do you do that? And running my own company and teaching, I think I'm at 12 years now as a coach, as an entrepreneur, marketing myself, having made,
which is a whole other skill set.
It's a whole other skill set. In a corporate situation, you are not taught how to market yourself as you and your skill are the product. It is actually a sales process. A lot of people don't think of it as sales. I like to think of it as enrolling somebody onto your side.
I like that. Enrolling someone onto your skills and attributes. I love that. And so that's why we find a lot of boisterous and charismatic and extroverts in management or in upper, because they have no problem sharing, how great they are and what they can do. And so it seems like the people under them aren't doing that, but they really are. They're the ones that are holding that person up.
Yeah. And this is why you see people who brag a lot and aren't really doing the work. But if you're not speaking up, say if you're the person who's actually getting it done, if you don't speak up, there's a vacuum there. And then the bragging person is going to step in and fill the vacuum. It is a human nature thing. Again, I don't think it's anybody's fault, because most of the time people aren't aware that they're doing that or that they're sabotaging themselves. It is a matter of how you were trained to communicate.
Yep, I love that. It's so, so, so good. Okay, so now, we're both speakers. I learned a lot. I concentrated on relationship communication for years and years, and then becoming a speaker like 8-9 years ago, like on the stage, vulnerability, like sharing my story and all that. I learned a bunch of techniques around that on how to be vulnerable and authentic on the stage. And even though you're not a speaker, this is very important. So tell us a little bit more about how this could benefit, learning how to communicate. How can this benefit in someone's life?
So telling stories, concise, short stories. So by saying you're not a speaker, you're talking to the audience, right? Our listeners.
Right.
Because I am a speaker, right?
No, you are a speaker. Yeah.
Yes. It's short stories, short, concise stories that tell us also why it matters. I think there's a classic formulation called the problem, the solution, and the benefit.
Oh, I like that.
So for instance, the problem is 8 out of 10 of the high-level women I work with tell me that they may have a seat at the table, but they still aren't being listened to. And so they see raises and promotions going to louder, flashier people.
Yes.
So that's a problem that people can relate to. What I do is show them how to be visible and valued, how to show up as a leader and a strategic thinker so that they are the ones to get the raise, to get the promotion, or to get that great new job.
And to be recognized. Yes, I love that. So I have a client right now that they gave her a management job because she's to just have a woman at the table. They never take any of her solutions, never give her any credit for anything, no extra money, a lot of extra time. And then 6 months down the road, they'll implement something that she said 6 months ago after another gentleman came up with it when she just said it 6 months ago. So not only is she not being valued, but she's being discounted.
There's an answer for that. So if you are being talked over in meetings, if you're being ignored and then someone else claims credit for your idea, that's where you use your allies. And there's a great deal. If you check my LinkedIn page and my YouTube page, I have a whole playlist of video nuggets where I talk about that, how to stop saying sorry and how to be heard, in a situation where you're the only one of your kind, of your gender, of your color, of your ethnicity, whatever. Recruit some allies and roll them onto your side. And then, so if you say an idea and 5 minutes later, somebody else says that idea, your ally can say, that's great that you're echoing what Jennifer just said.
Yes,
that's right. That's what Jennifer just said. What a great idea. I agree. It's a great idea. Jennifer, can you tell us more?
Oh, that's so good. Elizabeth, you are, we could talk for days and days and days. You are so full of gems. Thank you so much. Everyone, please go check out Elizabeth for sure. So tell me one last nugget that you think would be helpful.
Well, one last nugget is to pay attention to the way you speak. Team up with an ally. Have someone who can listen to you, who can catch you if you're saying sorry, or if you're rambling on, or if you have gone off on a tangent. Men and women do this. Have someone who in the meeting can either shoot you a private message if you're on a video meeting, or who will go
or pull on your ear, or you know, something that gives you a little
reminder. And of course you'll do that for them too.
Yes.
So you team up with an ally. Awareness is everything. Here's the nugget. Yep. Awareness is everything. The more you recognize what's going on as a communication, in a communication situation, and this is at home or at work, then you can recognize where you're sabotaging yourself.
Yep. I love that. Elizabeth, you are so amazing. Thank you so much. I'm going to add one more to that. Don't say,
Yes.
I always have all my new financial advisors put and put a red cross through it. And I just heard this huge event. It was beautiful. And the speaker got up there and said like 10 times. I'm like, oh my gosh, you should never do that. But anyways, I love Elizabeth. Thank you. I'm so grateful and appreciative of your time today. This is going to be most helpful for everyone. Please check out Elizabeth. And if you need some speaking skills and coaching, please hire her because you're going to get more bang for your buck than you can ever imagine. Elizabeth, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. It's been an honor and a delight to be on your show.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Juan.
We appreciate you joining us today, and don't forget to subscribe to the Rock My Finances YouTube channel for more engagement and bonus content. Tell me, what is your money story? Let's find out with Jennifer, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, every Thursday right here on K4HD Radio and Talk4 TV. It's not about the zeros, it's about the F word, feelings. Feelings Jennifer can't wait to explore with you next week. Until then, let's all say, I rock my finances.